Hello and welcome to Fearless Warriors with me, Cesar Zunyan. And today we have Jo Trewartha, who's a colleague of mine, and she formerly trained in EAM with me, and she's a specialist in health and well-being. So welcome, Jo.
Hi, Cessa. Good morning. It's great to be here with you today.
It's great to have you on here. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are, all of that.
Okay, so as you've already introduced me, I'm Jo, and I'm based in the West Midlands. I'm in central England, and I work in holistic health and well-being. So I've trained in several modalities over time, and I came to this because of my own health issues. I've had chronic issues since I was a child, and I became fascinated in finding solutions and answers. I I've over the years, I mean, I've had great adversity with my symptoms. I've had eczema, psoriasis, so skin conditions, hay fever, asthma, arthritis, and Lyme disease. So a whole host of really quite unpleasant symptoms, which I treated allopathically. And although my symptoms were suppressed, these things never really resolved. So that's what sent me looking for answers. So I was working as a teacher. I worked as a teacher for 18 years. And I decided to make the switch to this because as I trained in the modalities that I trained in, I loved it so much that I wanted to make it into a career. And I feel passionate about this because there are choices out there. I think what they do allopathically is often fantastic, particularly with emergencies,
Mm-hmm.
and in the actual original diagnosis, but they can't always tell people why these conditions have occurred. So that was why I became interested in this. So some of the things I've trained in include emotional freedom techniques, which is tapping. Some people call it tapping, which is based on acupuncture, and it's a bit like an LP with that as well. So that's one of the modalities that I first learned. I've also learned kinesiology, EAM, as you've already mentioned, the balance procedure, and this fantastic modality called Meta Health, which actually isn't it's slightly different from the others in that it's an analysis process, so it precedes treatment or therapy. And what I love about it is it's not purely holistic in that it works with the medical model as well. So I feel that it's very thorough. Meta actually means above and beyond. So that's why I love it, because we can use it with the medical system or we can use it with holistic approaches. It works with whichever approach we want to use, or both together combined.
That
Um,
sounds amazing. Uh, yeah, and I've heard you talk about mental health before, and it. I always find it so amazing how it knows like what's going on in the body. So yeah, tell us how it works, like how it works, what it does.
Okay, so as I've explained, it's above and beyond, so it works with any system. So we start off with a medical diagnosis in Meta Health, and what we're doing is we're looking at the precise mind-body reaction. So we know, for example, that people with physical health conditions, they probably have troubling thoughts about those conditions. Why me? Why now? Why is this happening to me? You know, I feel exhausted. This isn't fair, what's going on, and so on. And then also people with mental illnesses, such as depression, quite often get physical symptoms. They get aches and pains as well. So there's a definite, precise mind-body reaction and connection. And what we know in Meta Health sort of goes beyond quite a lot of other systems. I know Louise Hay is very popular in the alternative
Yeah.
world, in that she matches up specific emotions to specific conditions and sort of belief patterns. With Meta Health, it goes a step further. So we work with the biology, so we work with the body, the psychology in the mind, and also the social situation. And what they have found is that specific life situations or specific feelings certainly do correlate to specific illnesses in the body. And it's actually quite a profound system, in that you can work out using a timeline, which I'll share with you maybe later, exactly what's going on. So the symptoms quite often appear after a specific stress has resolved itself, which is quite new and revolutionary information. So most people think when they're sick, that's it, that's the problem, but actually it's part of a chain. So there's been a stressor before and the symptoms come usually afterwards. There are some things that happen when we're stressed, some changes in the physiology connected to the fight or flight response, which is well known. But actually a lot of physical conditions occur once a stress is resolved. So for me, I get skin issues, and so there's been times in my life when I've been in great pain with skin cracking and soreness, and times when it's cleared. So I know it's going around in a cycle. So sometimes it's there and sometimes it isn't there. So for me, what I found really brilliant about the Meta Health was it gave me explanation as to why this was happening. And the skin is all about touch. The epidermis, the outer skin layer, is our connection really to others. And lots of children get eczema. So that sort of makes sense really, in that they're growing up. Maybe it could be that mom left them in a cot when they were younger and they didn't realise that she was coming back, or parents separated, or a child at day nursery for the first time and hates it, doesn't really understand situation. So skin issues are all about separation, connection, wanting touch and connection, or loss of touch and connection. So that's been really useful for me to know that. And so and it's like that for many other conditions. I mean, my joint conditions, I get, say I've got arthritis as well. That's all about self-devaluation, things to do with the musculoskeletal system. So I know from my life history that there's certainly been times in my life when I've devalued myself, and that has been so extreme for me that it's manifested as a physical symptom. So now I know that I can work with it and reframe myself using the techniques. So using things like EAM or Psyche, I can make myself feel better, and also taking action. So in a situation where I might have felt devalued before, I can now work with that and turn it around so that my symptoms are less.
So like with the whole arthritis thing, so you know that comes up when you're feeling, or you're devaluing yourself. So if you then take action and not let that feeling of being devalued happen, so you don't get as great symptoms.
That's right, because I've learned, because the pain and the discomfort become after the situation's resolved. So I think this started for me when I was about 6 years old, and a teacher shouted at me at primary school, and I wasn't expecting it. And it was completely out of the blue, and I didn't know what to do about it. And I thought I was a really naughty girl because I'd been shouted at by a teacher. And the story was, I'm left-handed, and I'd written my name on a piece of paper to start some work, and I'd done it a little bit scruffily, and I didn't like it. So I was trying to be a good girl and trying to be neat. So I scrunched the paper into a ball and put it in the bin, and then the teacher came and pulled the paper out of the bin and, why are you wasting paper? And I was so shocked because I was just trying to be neat. And I think that deeply affected me. And because all of my classmates had heard me being shouted at, that thing that little kids do when they go, oh, and I felt like a really naughty girl. So I think that really affected me quite badly, which, it sounds ridiculous now, but as a little child, it was quite upsetting.
Yeah, when you're that young. What your parents tell you or think about you, and your teachers are like, that is so important, that is your world, like school and home.
And I don't think I could go home and tell my parents that I'd been shouted at by the head teacher and in front of the whole class. So that started problems for me really, because what tends to happen is that we can get tracks and triggers. So every time a situation appears then where authority are questioning me or whatever, then my subconscious tunes into that. So I have to be very careful around checking in that but I know that now, so
Yeah.
which is great. So I know, is this person being fair? If they got a point, or am I creating drama out of this that isn't actually there? Which is, you know, owning it as well.
Yeah.
So do I deserve this criticism? Is it just, or is it unjust? And just working through. So I mean, that sounds ridiculous. I know some people have some very, very major traumas, you know, abuses, and are in
Mm.
war and things. But being a chronic situation, it means that there's a pattern there which is repeating for me. So that's what
Yeah.
I work with, and that's what's helped me work with clients as well in understanding all of this. So it's looking for the original root trigger of what the problem is.
Yeah, it's so interesting how something that feels or that you think is so insignificant that's
Mm.
happened in your early life can have such a major effect.
Totally. And I'd
Yeah.
forgotten about it until I did this work, and I was looking for, where did this start? What was the first thing that where I first felt devalued? And, you know, it was completely an eye-opener to me. It was deeply buried there. You know, I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about it for many, many years, but it was still affecting me.
Yeah, it
Mm.
just got goosebumps. Yeah, I just love that kind of discovering where things have started and where the patterns are coming from, and
Mm.
it's just fascinating.
It is, yeah.
uh, cool. Um, so so when a client comes to you, like, how do you work with them? Like, yeah, tell us.
Okay, so it
Um,
depends what they want to work on, because obviously every situation is unique. And I also use another modality called lifestyle prescriptions, which uses the same information as the meta health. And the lifestyle prescriptions is sort of like your holistic prescription. So again, working with all different levels of the person and what their situation is. So it could be working on exercise or breathing or getting better sleep or better hydration or nutrition or mindset. So when people make their initial inquiry, I sort of get to know what they want to work on and what they want to achieve.
mhm,
If it's a health issue, then there's specific questions we can use, an analysis process to help them work out what was the original root cause of their health issue. So that's really important. So that's
mhm,
usually the first session in working out where it all started. And then from there, what we do is reframe beliefs. So for example, if somebody has got digestion issues, it quite often is about things that they want to let go of or they're struggling to let go of. So there's a bit of a metaphor there as well. So
mhm.
we'd work specifically with that and with the context of their life. So what do they want to feel instead? Do they
Mhm.
need to make some social changes, or is mindset change just enough? So what can we do to help the body, support the body? So with digestion, might be some nutritional element, might be some exercise that helps as well.
Mhm.
So we work with the mind, the body, and the social situation each time. So, you know,
Yeah.
combining all three. So it's almost like they come with their diagnosis from the doctor, and then we sort of work using as many different areas as we can, which I think is brilliant, because if we go to the doctor, then we might get a cream or a pill, or referred to a hospital. If we go to a psychologist, they just look at the mind, you know, but this is combining both together. So
Yeah.
that's why I love it.
Which is great, because whatever's going on in your mind affects your body, and whatever's going on
Yeah,
in your body affects your mind, like you said at the
yeah,
start. It's
yeah,
not just
totally.
they're not
Yeah,
separate.
yeah, and that's you know, I think that's becoming more and more well known now, and it's the way forward. We need to work on, you know, with both things together to get the best results. Otherwise, we
Exactly.
do end up stuck, going around in
Yeah.
circles. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Um, so with meta health, you can identify like the pattern, like what's coming up for you, and then like so you've got the. I know you're going to show us the chart, but you've got like the, as you call, the stress phase and then the healing phase.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So with this and like all the other modalities you do, um, is it a case of making symptoms better, or is it looking to try and get rid of all symptoms? Like,
Yeah. Well, it's whatever the individual wants. So the symptoms are the messages really. They're messengers. So so a symptom is actually telling us that something isn't quite quite right. We're a little bit off kilter.
Mhm.
So actually they're meaningful. So they direct our life journey if we work with them, if we know what's going on there. So we actually say that nature doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so nature doesn't make errors. They are there for a reason. So it's actually really insightful. If we get that wisdom, then we actually evolve as people. So most people do actually want to reduce their symptoms or get rid of their symptoms because, you know, they're niggling or they're making them very, very ill.
Yeah.
Usually people who want mental health analysis are usually very ill because they, you know, they've tried other things, it's not that well known, and so they've really researched and found out about mental health. And
Mhm.
then you know, people don't usually come for a cold, they usually come for something, you know, like a cancer or really
Yeah.
serious disease. So we say that nature doesn't make mistakes or errors, so it's a sophisticated reaction. But if people are working with what they need to change in their life, so the changes usually take place in the mind first and then the body will follow.
Okay.
So yeah, so most people do want to reduce their symptoms, but it's usually as quite, you know, a gradual process. Things just don't usually disappear straight
Yeah.
away. It takes time, because it's a new way of living. When you've changed your beliefs and you actually take action, change the way that you're showing up in the world. I mean, one of my big problems was actually teaching. It didn't
Mhm.
really suit me. I mean, I stayed with it for 18 years because I felt loyalty to my students, I felt loyalty to the staff I was working with, and
Yeah.
I actually did enjoy the teaching, but the politics and the paperwork side of it were exhausting for me. So I
Mm.
was conflicted. So I was going into work every day conflicted. And you usually find that when people have got a chronic condition or a serious health issue, there's usually something in their life, an area of their life, or maybe multiple areas of their life which aren't really working the way they'd like. So it's
Yeah.
really wonderful to be able to put people on a different path or help people, you know, achieve what they want to achieve, the goals that they really want in their life. So
Yeah.
that's another thing that I really love about it.
That is a really nice
Mm.
thing to do for someone else.
Mm.
Um, so could you potentially get rid of like diseases or?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's new, and so it's not mainstream, but definitely, I mean, using the information I've worked on myself and others. I've usually people who see me will come and see me, have an appointment, and then they usually carry on with their health professional, sort of their hospital consultant, and work with other people as well. So sometimes people will see a specialist nutritionist, or they'll see somebody who's doing an exercise program for them, or a chiropractor, and so on.
Mhm.
But definitely symptoms can improve and resolve
Okay.
using this. So it's the diagnosis. We don't use we use the word analysis. We're not allowed to diagnose, so we work from medical diagnosis. So the analysis process sort of guides everything else, and so
Mhm.
people know what sort of changes that they want to make. And yeah, health symptoms for certain can improve. So for example, my skin, I had an amazing EAM session a couple of years ago, and that actually resolved my psoriasis. I mean, I've still got eczema, but they're two different things. So
Mhm.
in meta health, we know that psoriasis is where there's two separate conflicts of separation, and eczema is one. And the
Okay.
conventional medical system's not caught up with this yet,
Mhm.
so they can't really explain the difference. So I know that in that session that my psoriasis resolved is that I completely healed one of the conflicts. So yeah, that was, you know, amazing after I'd had that particular rash for about 13 years.
Wow, that is so
And so,
amazing.
yeah, so even though I knew it was about separation, I hadn't got the particular conflict where it
Mm.
began. And it was, we're using the EAM, energy alignment method, which directed us to what needed to be cleared to resolve that. So my conscious mind didn't know, but using the EAM, we managed to find it. So for sure, so that's a personal example.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say alone that I have healed loads and loads of people, but combined approach. You know, I've heard people who've had cancer who, you
Mm.
know, are in remission. So, you know, that's a big thing. And people whose pain just transforms and disappears. So yeah, I mean, it's not particularly me, it's the system and the individual themselves working, you know. I just facilitate, really.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. So if anyone wants to find out or contact you, where should we be directing them?
Okay, so I've got a website which is going to be updated, but it's still live at the moment. My website is www.freeyourmindsolutions.com, so freeyourmindsolutions.com, or they can contact me via email at Jo Trewartha, so J-O, and then Trewartha, Trewartha, so that's Trewartha at hotmail.co.uk. So that's easy enough once you get the spelling of my name right.
Yeah. I'll put it in the post so that it's there and it's correct.
Thanks, Cesar.
Cool. So we're just coming to the end of the interview. So what do you want to leave our audience with today?
Okay, so I've got this diagram that I wanted to show you. So if I screen share that. Okay, can you see that for now?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so a lot of people who watch this may not be particularly interested in chronic illness. Hopefully most of your listeners are healthy, but this is just so important for everybody anyway, whether you've got an illness or not, because this model it shows how illness is created and the pattern that it goes through. So I wanted to share this with you. So if you see the number 1, so we've got health imbalance. So this is, you know, everything's going pretty much well in life. We're getting good sleep, maybe happy in life. Nothing's really bothering us, no health symptoms. So then we shift to number 2, okay, and this is the start of a disease process, and this is called a biological conflict shock. So this is what I was talking about earlier, in that something happens which, you know, is a stress to us. So we've got an acronym for this. A chap called Richard Fluke created this. It's UDIN, and it stands for unexpected, dramatic, isolating, no strategies to deal with it. So unexpected, dramatic, isolating, no strategies to deal with it. So that's the start of a disease process. That's really important. So if any of your listeners have something going on in their life which is unexpected, dramatic, isolating, no strategies to deal with it, that's a sign that they might get poorly later on, and that would be a good time to do some emotional release work on whatever it is that happened. So after this this UDIN, this shock, then we go into what we call the stress phase, which is number 3. And this is where we get the mind symptoms, the strong psychological symptoms. So we might be obsessing, we might have anxiety. Oops.
Okay.
It's just popped up. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Oops. Okay, so yes, so we might have anxiety or mania, and depending on our personality, we might become more aggressive or we might be withdrawn, depending on what's happened to the situation. So something which is unexpected, dramatic, isolating, no strategy. It could be somebody in our families in an accident, maybe an accident which has left them injured, and it's not expected it. So it could be something like that, or a relationship breakup. So those are the sort of big stresses in life. Okay. And then the stress phase can be forever, or it might be very short, depending on what's happened and what happens next. So some people are in stress phase for years and years and years, and some people might just have a stress phase for a day or 2 days or whatever. But what's interesting is that what happens next is usually roughly equal in length unless we intervene. So this is like a natural process that the body goes through. So after the stress phase, hopefully we get a resolution, so the conflict ends.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be the obsessive thinking, the problem that's called the obsessive thinking has gone away. So it could be that we've changed our environment. So if the stress is at work, that we've changed our job. If we've had a row with somebody, maybe we make up with them, that kind of thing. So the problem's no longer there. And then, as I said earlier in the interview, what happens is quite often this is, it seems so unfair, but this is when symptoms can develop. Depending on what the particular stress is, then symptoms tend to develop, and we've got this regeneration phase. And I won't go into it too much because it's quite complicated, but just to give you an idea. So this is when the stronger physical symptoms show up. So things like colds and influenza, fatigue, aches and pains, headaches, muscles and bowel cramps, asthma, heart attack, and so on. The two little blue bits there just indicate changes in the water in the body. We quite often have more water in the body when we're regenerating, which gets squeezed out. That peak in the middle, the number 6, the healing crisis or healing peak, that's the most dangerous part of an illness. So that's when things like heart attacks can happen, epileptic fits, and we believe that that's like a test, a biological test to see if the person is ready to return to the group. So it's sort of evolutionary. Hopefully though, the person will come out of all of this, and then gradually their health will improve. So what I wanted to share with you, so as I said, if hopefully most of the people who are listening to this will be well, but it's still useful to know that model anyway, so you know how the process of a disease works. Because most people who go to the doctor are usually in number 5 because they've resolved their conflict and they've got symptoms, but it's great to know that it is part of a longer process, and if you have got a stress in your life, to resolve it as soon as possible. So one of the things that I wanted to really share with you, which I think is really useful to know, if you check in with the temperature of your hands, if they're very, very cold, this indicates stress. So I'm not talking about, obviously, if you're out and it's a cold, snowy day, then inevitably going to be cold. If you're in a room of, and it's quite warm, but your extremities are cold, that's a really big sign that you're under stress. And there is positive stress as well. So a little bit of stress is good for us, can keep us motivated and get us through. But if you're one of these people who's always got cold extremities, then I would really, check in with your thinking, what could it be that is stressing you out? So there are more symptoms than this, but I just put these here as some of the main ones of stress and regeneration. So we've got the cold extremities, obsessive thinking, tense body, trouble sleeping, weight loss. There might also be changes in your appetite if you're under stress. Some people don't eat, and some people will be eating more junk foods and sort of, will be reaching for sugar and alcohol and so on. Changes to the blood pressure, high blood pressure and increased heart rate. So this is all about fight or flight, really. So there are a few more stress-based symptoms, but those are the main ones. So if you've got any of those things going on, it's quite likely that you've got some unresolved stress. And then the regeneration symptoms are sort of like the opposite of those. So we've got warm extremities and we might have fever. So if you come home in the evening, if you've been out at work and your hands are warm, that's nothing to worry about. That's just that your body is regenerating after a normal day. It's actually nice to have warm extremities. So obsessive thinking is over. So you might still know what it was that was the major conflict, but you're not worrying about it anymore, and your body will be more relaxed. If you're experiencing fatigue, tiredness, exhaustion, low energy, all of those are signs that you're resolving something, that you're in regeneration. So it can be good to work with those and get the vitality up. So you could do some exercise, so some really nice gentle exercise, maybe some stretching, yoga, qigong, those kind of things are really good to get the energy up. Changes in your appetite again, so you might actually notice some weight gain, which might be annoying for you, but it actually means you're in healing. So a little bit of weight gain is not a bad thing. And then the blood pressure switches from low low blood pressure and decreased heart rate. So those are just some of the things. So if you've got any of those things going on, it might be good to sort of check in, what's been going on. Am I stressed? Am I resolving something? I just think it's a really nice model, and it's really simple to check in with.
Yeah, that's really interesting to know all of that. Yeah, and to keep in mind, so that when these things happen, you can check in with what's going on with your body, what's happening in your life. Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're so welcome, Cessa. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
That's okay. I'm just going to get you to stop sharing for a second,
Okay.
and then we'll just. Then I just yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with everyone, because I think that's really important for people to see how things work. Because, like you said, often people think getting ill is like the bad point, but like when you've had a really busy, I don't know, time at work, and then you go on holiday and you get a cold. You're like, why am I getting a cold now?
Seems so unfair, doesn't it? Yeah. And it is quite a reversal, because it's almost like, I'm ill, hooray, I can celebrate, I've resolved something, which sounds completely back to front. But yeah, it's different to what we used to, but I've just found this model over I learnt it in 2009, and I found it right time and time again.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's brilliant. Yeah, so we can all keep that in mind next time we have any of these symptoms. And have a think about what's stressing us out.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you so much for being on this interview. And mental health fascinates me.
Thank you.
You know so much, so I'm so happy you agreed to do this.
Thank you. And I think the title of what you're presenting here, Fearless Warriors, I mean, fearless is amazing in regards to mental health as well. We don't need to fear our symptoms. If we know what's going on, we can work with them. They're not our enemy. They can guide us. And actually, if we get the insight and the wisdom, we evolve ourselves. So actually, they're nothing to be afraid of if we're working with them and we catch them soon enough.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. It's true. We shouldn't fear what our body's telling us.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So I'm just going to end the call. So
Okay.
thank you
take care.
Thank you for being on this, and thank you for all our audience viewers, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye.